Hi, everybody. It's Deborah here. Today, we are going to be interviewing Jil, and she's a social worker and also a counselor. And I'm so happy that she made some time to talk to us today a little bit about actually career counseling, because that's the thing that she most enjoys. And we're going to talk a little bit about what brought her to that place and how she's helping people. So without further ado, Jil, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
I definitely would. And thank you, Deborah, because I feel like, you pretty much did just introduce me. You had it. That's exactly right, as I'm a social
Yeah, but you can tell us a little bit more about, about you and how you got to where it's nice to know when, listeners can hear where you came from.
For sure. Absolutely.
On your journey.
As Deb said, I'm a social worker, and I worked, in nonprofits and then in what I like to call the system. And when you say that to a social worker, they definitely know what you mean by that. So I was working for like a health authority here in British Columbia. And as much as I loved helping people and I worked with great people and a lot of things about it were great, I knew that it wasn't the exact right career for me. So I branched out on my own, became self-employed, and started a private counseling practice. And I do that online, which is great for me because I like to move around and I like the freedom of working from home. And I noticed through the course of doing my counseling work with people that my absolute favorite topic to talk about with anybody was their careers. I mean, people would come to talk about, a breakup with their partner or some other struggle they're going through. And then they would mention, and things aren't going great at work. And I would find it hard not to steer the conversation in that direction. But of course, it's not about me. It's about the client and what they want to talk about and what they came for. So I just look more into career counseling and career coaching as its own sort of offering that I could help people with. And I learned a lot about that, took a course at UBC, and I'm sort of transitioning my practice into doing mostly career counseling and mostly career coaching. Because as a friend of mine so wisely pointed out, it's what you do all day.
I was just going to say that. It's funny that you mentioned like people come they have a problem with this relationship with that. That seems to be the big theme for when people think they need help. But our jobs, it's kind of like a blind spot for many people. Like you said, we spend almost our whole day there, and most people are not happy. Most people are not happy with what they're doing, and yet they don't feel even the need to change it. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think most people are not happy, and they sort of think exactly what you said. They think, well, that's just the way it is. We're not supposed to be happy at work. And then I also think a lot of people have sort of a shame, and they think that they're supposed to know on their own how to be happy at work, right? They're supposed to know what to do. They're supposed to have a calling, and they're supposed to just know what that is. And they feel sort of, especially in younger people, but not always, they feel sort of like ashamed and feel like they should be able to figure this out on our own. But really, nobody teaches us how to know what we're good at, what our strengths are, what's going to make us happy, how to best serve the world, how to integrate the job with your lifestyle.
I like that. How to best serve the world. That's that's a big thing.
It's an important
because
thing.
In every job that you do, you are serving the world in some form. And if you're in a job that doesn't make you happy, that means you're doing a shitty job. So if you go and find something that makes you happy, then maybe you will be way more effective. But we don't think about it like that, right?
Right. And I want to say, I agree with you that often if you're not happy at work, you're doing a shitty job. And I want to say that, yes, often that is true. But there's a thing that happens that's almost more dangerous is when you're not doing a good job and people keep telling you that you're doing a good job. And yet, this doesn't feel right. This isn't it for me. This is okay. I can tolerate this, but there's something better. And it's really hard to strive for that something better for you. Like if you're in a job that you hate, that every day you wake up and it's just awful and it's just drudgery to get through it. Well, it's easy to make a change in that case, right? You're like the pain is going to push you. But when you're doing okay, your coworkers are telling you, they enjoy working with you, you're doing a good job. That you're getting well compensated enough. That's dangerous. Because it's really hard when you know what I mean? And people are saying, oh, you're really lucky to have this job. It's great hours. You worked really hard to get here. When you're getting that kind of feedback and that deep inside you that this isn't really right. You know what I mean? That you could be happier somewhere else, that you have a higher calling, right? That's more dangerous than that you absolutely hate. What do you think? Does that sound right to you? Or
yeah, I think that there's both end of the spectrums, right? And like it's very important. Like most of the time what happens to us is we are not aware. It's so in your blind spot. Yeah. Because, you know, like it's been in our conditioning that you have to have a job, and especially if you have a family, you have to provide for your family. So you don't even think about your relationship to your job. You just know that you have to be there because you need the money. So it's, I think what might be useful for people is to start thinking, what is your relationship to your job? What is your relationship to your job? You know, because if that's in your blind spot, then you don't even know.
100%. I actually couldn't agree with you more. And I think that that's one of the things that I say to people when they come for career counseling. What's different about having, you know, a mental health background and a counseling background and a social work background is really seeing somebody in the environment. I think that people think that career counseling and career coaching is you're going to show up and they're going to put you through a bunch of assessments and tests, and it's going to sort of spit out, you know, here's what you're good at, go do that. And yet, you say about the relational piece, I mean, we do have a relationship.
We do. And we ignore it. It's like anything else, like how you, like you said, having been a counselor for many different things that people come to you for. Like that's one of the things that you see is that people have relationship issues with many things, but they don't think about it. Like even with money, their job, these are all relationships that we have that we are not looking at. It's a complete blind spot to us. And so we don't even know. You're just going through the motions and being unhappy and don't even know why you're doing it. And that's why for some people, have you seen, they get what we call the midlife crisis.
Right.
And they're just done. And they do like very stupid things because they have, some stupid things because we've seen them, you know, like trying to ignore that, trying to go and do the right thing. And then it comes to a point where you're just like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then they just really blow the whole thing up. So before we get to that point is really why we want to talk to people about careers. Before you get to that point, I think, you know, if you are not looking at relationship with your job, maybe it's time that you do. And if you find that you have an issue, there's many people that can help you. And even people like Jil here, that's what she does. That's what she loves to do. And it's not set in stone that you have to do something for the rest of your life that you like. If you liked something when you were 20, maybe you don't like it anymore when you're 30 or 40, and it's okay to change. It's just to acknowledge that, right? And not to be afraid. And there's many risks, of course. It depends on different people's backgrounds and why they have a job and who they have to support and so on, right? But I do believe that if you truly want to be in a career that you truly feel fulfilled in, that you can make it happen, even with all those challenges. And that's why we have people like Jil, career counselors. It's going to help you step by step. It doesn't have to be, and I like it because it doesn't have to be, from a 0 to 100. Maybe you take a baby step towards that and then another step towards that. But at least you're now thinking about it. At least you're in a relationship with it. At least it's not in your backstory.
Right.
Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that 100%.
Yes.
I think people often think, you know, oh, when I win the lottery, or like you said, oh, when my kids are grown up.
Yes.
And sometimes I think, you know, if you look at Instagram posts or you look at influencers, often they'll be like, oh, no excuses, just do the thing that you want to do. You only have one life. And I think, yes, there are some people who can do that. Absolutely. But for most of us, we do have what you said, bills to pay, rent or a mortgage. We have kids to raise. We have obligations. And I think, you know, doing career coaching and career counseling in the context of that, right? How can those work for you instead of against you? How
against you?
Baby steps, like you were saying.
Yeah.
And often, you know, it's important as well to take, you know, you can do a full leap, but sometimes it's important to do some investigation first, because often what you might think of a job, you might romanticize it a little bit. So it's important to sort of take baby steps and find out, okay, am I romanticizing this or reality?
Oh, I love that. We romanticize so many things, don't we?
Absolutely.
It's actually what I call it in my career when I counsel people. It's like, it's fantasy. Where are you living? You're living in your fantasy.
And certainly, you know, making a career transition, you can be happier, but there's still, if it's, you know, the right career for you, more aligned, the conditions are better suited for you and your personality, absolutely. And yet at the same time, there's always going to be things that are objectionable or things that are not your favorite. And I think it's important to have a solid idea of what those are. I mean, I'm just thinking of an example of, you know, I wanted to be a midwife for a long time, decades.
Yes.
I hear people say, oh, I want to be a midwife. That'd be so great. You know, when the baby's born, it's so wonderful. But really, what I came to realize is when the baby's born, that's a really small part of midwifery. The rest of it is paperwork, waiting for hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, and everybody's different.
Everybody's different. It's a lot of waiting around. It's a lot of, I mean, right now midwifery is regulated by the government here in in Canada, in most places. So you are filling out paperwork and doing things according to regulations. It's all hours. You're always on call. You have to maintain a clinic in one location, which I came to learn about myself is not, you can't be going here, there, and everywhere. I mean, there might be some opportunities to do that, but in general, you have, pregnancy can be long and people sort of want you to be there through most of it, right? So
yeah. So you got to do your homework. You got to do your homework before you decide, oh, I want to do something, and then see if that's really what you want to do.
And for some people, those problems, you know, irregular hours, being up all night, having to stay in one place, are good things. You know what I mean? Those are things that they enjoy about it. And
but they thrive.
But they thrive in those situations. For other people, they're deal breakers. So I think it's important to think about not just the fantasy about the glamour of that moment when the baby's born, for example, but to think about the entirety of what it means to do that job.
Yeah, but I think that's probably in most careers, isn't it? And it's like in most things in life, you know, there's always going to be the things that you like about it, and there'll be some things that you don't like about it, and you have to learn how to be okay with both. And I think when it comes to perhaps a career, we can talk about, like you said, some people want to do something that makes them happy, but then what does that really mean? Because to me, it seems like the word fulfillment is a more how can I say, accurate way to describe, to do something that you love to do. Because when the things that you don't like about that particular job comes through, you're still doing it because it fulfills you. It's like a soul calling. So there's a different, on the spectrum, there's so many, you know, different markers how people can identify what is it that you truly want to do with your life. I remember when I was a kid, I always loved people, and I always wanted to help people since I was very young, like 5-6 years old. And I remember seeing in our community that there were these people called social workers like you. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be a social worker one day because I wanted to help people. And then, of course, later in life, when I understood what a social worker really does, I'm like, nope, works for an institution, has no, you know, can't do any decisions. It's like, nope, don't want to do that. And decided to do psychology instead. And then, of course, later on, when I discovered that, oh, if I want to do a master's in psychology, I feel I'll be very much like blocked in to a certain way of doing things. And I wanted to be, I guess, more free in how I do things, because I'd already been teaching yoga for many years. I'd already been connected to myself and to more than just a physical body. So I wanted to be able to tap into all that instead of just doing it from a book. So I decided, no. But also when I decided no, I let go of that, what we call safety in that kind of job. Because that kind of job, like, you know, you get people who can use their benefits and everything is going to be hunky-dory. But I still, in my heart, I still felt that it's not right for me. So I let that safety go. Right. And so there are many decisions that you have to make, you know, to get to the place where you feel you're doing something that fulfills you. And that's kind of like, you know, going to help people, because we all help people. Every one of us, it doesn't matter what you do, even if you're just baking a bread, even if you're just sewing up a zipper, even if we're all helping each other through our jobs, through whatever if you're building cars or you're fixing cars, all our jobs is helping another person.
Most. I'm sure probably listeners are thinking, well, what about, and they have some exception in their head.
Yeah, exactly. Most jobs, whatever. I mean, like, I don't know. Like maybe scuba diving is not, I don't know.
People love scuba diving, but anyway, yeah. No, absolutely. I think, you talked about happiness, and I think it's a myth. We think that we get happiness, oh, if I just had, all the money in the world and I could just sit on a beach and do nothing. But actually studies show that if people do have the opportunity to do that, yeah, they're good for a couple of weeks. And after that, they're bored, depressed, and restless, because really happiness and purpose are tied together, right?
You see?
When people lose that, that's why often in retirement, people's happiness takes a dip, because they lose
no more purpose.
Unless you retire to something, people lose that sense of purpose. And it's been shown that that is crucial.
Yeah. And I can see that too, just as a mother, because when my kids were younger, my purpose was to make sure they have this, and this, give this and this. And then as they got older, I had to do less and less. And then they moved out. I was like, oh. It's like, and you have to redefine your purpose. And luckily for me, I already had my side, which is my yoga, my meditation, and so on. But now that my kids are all grown up and mostly out, I get to do way more. But if I wasn't preparing myself all those years to have this, then I think it could have been a problem. Like I think many people do, because your purpose is now not there anymore. So you have to find a way to redefine your purpose if that's going on. So for example, if you're going to be retiring, make sure that now you have to change your purpose, because your purpose isn't to go to work anymore, but you still need one to get up in the morning to enjoy your life. Even if your purpose is just, I see a lot of people retired going on a walk and picking up the garbage along the way. It's like, wow, that's incredible that somebody is doing that. Like, to me anyway, I think that's incredible. So even if it's just that, if you wake up and say, I have another person who close to where I live, he's retired and he helps the kids when they go to school to cross the street. It's like, he gets up in the morning, he doesn't have to, he's like helping the kids, helps the school. Purpose. It's very important, because without it, we're just going to die.
Absolutely. You don't feel a part of things. You feel you lose your place in society. And as you were talking, I was thinking, and as you were talking about raising your kids, part of the work I do, purpose, another part of the work that I do is around identity. And so often when our kids are little, or when we work a job, that becomes part of our identity as parents, as employees. People often say, what do you do? And what they're really asking is, who are you in the world? And we say, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm a counselor.
I'm a mother.
I'm a mother, right? And I think parents are often encouraged, especially female parents, I would argue, to really lean into that identity and to really have that as your sole purpose. And often, as you said, when the kids grow up, they don't need you as much. It can be a bigger loss than maybe it needs. Yes. Don't have other relationships and other identity besides that you can.
Yeah. So if you're listening out there, and if your identity is solely related to your job or solely related to your children, you need something for yourself. Yeah. You need something that goes beyond those things, that if they're not there anymore, who are you? What can you offer the world? And it's great to know that it's okay for that to change.
Right.
We don't all have to stay the same the whole life. Like I believe, like if you look at nature has 4 seasons. It doesn't say summer the whole year. It doesn't say winter the whole year. We go through phases. We go through stages. I think, often we as human beings, we feel separated from nature, but we are part of nature. And so when you watch nature, she gives us all the clues. We can really use nature to help us to go through our seasons, because that's how I look at my life. It's a season to be a teenager. I had a season to be a toddler. And then I watched my children having the seasons to be those things. And you have to be able to change with that internally and be okay with where you're at, And again, coming back to the midlife crisis people, because that's also what happens to people is they get to their midlife and it's a different phase. And it's a beautiful phase. But what often happens is we compare it to the last phase. It's like, when you get to 30, then they want to be 20. Or when you get to 50, they want to be 30. And it's like, you haven't even explored this phase, but you're comparing it to the last phase. Of course, you're going to be unhappy.
Yeah. And holding on to the last phase and really thinking that, that you're not supposed to change, or that it's not okay to go of those. And
nature doesn't do that. Like if you watch, one of the things that I love the most where I live is the fall. And to me, it never ceases to fascinate me how the leaves just fall from the trees. There's no resistance.
There's no excess.
The leaf says like, hey, it's time. Let's just fall. And then what happens is they fall to the ground, and then they mix become, earth, and then that goes into the roots of the tree, and then you get new leaves. And that's literally what's going on for us too. It's just, we're going through these changes and these phases. But if you hold on to an identity, could be a career identity too, you can apply it into anything in your life. If you hold on to it, then you're going to be unhappy. That's why so many people are unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they haven't updated they're still trying to operate as if it's summer when it's winter.
Okay. I remember the update story with the iPhones, because I always say, imagine you are running on an iPhone 4. Okay. So this is your life. And then now some years have gone by and we have an iPhone 13. So you're trying to put the software of the iPhone 13 into the iPhone 4 phone. It doesn't work. Mm-hmm. You need to upgrade yourself with time as things are changing. You can be stuck in the past. It's going to be one of the worst things for you, because there's only pain and suffering there. Because why? The past is not real. The past doesn't exist anymore. And so if you're comparing your life now to the past, you're going to be miserable. So better don't do it.
I feel like as you're talking, I'm realizing I see this a lot with career coaching and career counseling with younger people who are being fed a constant stream of information from the older people in their life, be that their parents, their teachers, their grandparents, aunts and uncles, even maybe sometimes their boss. And they're being, told things about careers that were maybe appropriate in the 1970s or 1980s, but are not appropriate to the way that people work now, right? No. They're being told, like, you can't ask for time off, working from home is unrealistic, you have to stay with one job, otherwise people are going to think you're flaky. And all of that stuff is absolutely not true, right? I mean, that it was true. That's how we conceptualized work, right? That was the relationship that people had with work. You better be grateful for that job. You better stay there. Have it for your entire life.
50 years ago.
What your boss says goes. And, just grit your teeth until retirement. And then your real life will start if you're lucky enough to live that long. And I think people nowadays are realizing, like, I know that is not the way that most of the work operates these days, right? And I feel like, if people...
That's important. That's important to know.
It's from the iPhone 4, right? It's not
exactly. And here's the thing, like, those people have good intentions, but again, they didn't upgrade themselves with time. They stayed from 30 and 40 years ago. The information stayed the same, but life is constantly changing and moving and changing and moving. And if you don't change and move with it, I mean, as you get older, you don't have to go at the same pace, but you still have to do it. Because if you don't, you get left behind.
Absolutely.
And then you give this information that is like outdated, right? Because that's what worked for you 50 years ago, but doesn't work anymore.
Doesn't work anymore. It isn't the way. The world is changing very quickly, and the rules
isn't it so? And we can hardly keep up. I think it's kind of like spinning to me. It's like, oh my God, things are changing every day so fast. It's crazy. I don't know if it's an age thing. Maybe the 5-year-old doesn't feel the same about it as we do at 50, but as I do at 50. But I just feel like there's so much change. There's so much technology. There's so much information. Like it's just hard to find a peaceful moment because there's so much change. Like you have to keep up with it all the time. Yeah. So basically, I was going to ask you so if there's a person who, now that we've had this conversation and we've opened up their minds a little bit about, checking out their relationship towards their job, checking out how they, feel about it. What kind of markers would you say for people to watch out? Like, what would be the tell signs?
It's a great question. I think that things, you sort of maybe what we would call mental health symptoms. If you notice, Sunday night, Monday morning, you're feeling a little anxious, feeling a little bit like sort of some dread. You don't want to go in. I don't think that's a really good, it's not really necessarily a sign that you desperately need to make a change, but it's maybe a sign that you need to talk to somebody about it and see if you can figure out what's going on. If you talked about the midlife crisis, and I think people often feel like, the job that they have that's good for now, if you find, okay, this job and I just took it, it's good for now, it's not everything, but it's 10 years in, or 5 years in, or 2 years in, I'm not getting any younger and I'm starting to get worried. Maybe I need to think about having a plan for how to make a change. Or also if you find yourself thinking, I want to do something else, but I don't know what that is, and I don't even know where to start to figure that out.
And it's nice to talk to somebody and explore that, because you'll be amazed what comes out once you have the opportunity to explore it with another person who's just there for you, to listen to you. Because often I found that when you have a person that listens to you and you can really have the safety and the freedom to talk, usually you come up with your own solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And the role of the counselor and the coach is certainly not to tell you what to do or what career you should look into. It's to ask those questions and give that outside perspective. It's I said it's like massage. You can't really do it on yourself. You really need an outside person. So far with yourself, right? You really need an outside person.
I mean, you could do a little bit, like, you know, but not a full massage.
Right.
I like it. Yeah.
I've also heard it say, even the best back surgeon doesn't do their own back surgery, right? So therapists need therapists, yogis need yoga teachers, right? We all need doctors. Don't do their own, maybe they do some of their own medicine, but they go to the doctor, right? So we all need that sort of outside perspective. We are meant to live in community and to help.
Well, if you look at some of the world's most successful athletes and business people, they all had coaches. Every single one of them. Because again, like you said, it's very important to get that outside perspective. And also, you know, if you have, like in my case, I see that when I was going for my yoga teacher training, you go to a teacher who knows way more than you do, because they're going to open your eyes and expand your mind so that you can step into that, so that you can start to see what's out there. But if you don't have somebody who knows more than you in that particular thing, then you will never know it either. So that's why we have people like you who can help and guide people to explore it. At least, like if you're listening here and you're not feeling enthusiastic about your life, your job, it's like, maybe just explore it. Maybe just go and talk to somebody and say, hey, I want to talk about my career. I mean, when I was a kid, like I wanted to be a social worker. And then when I became a teenager, like 17, I was like, oh, I want to be an air hostess, because I wanted to travel. And I thought I could travel for free if I'm an air hostess. But like you said, once I looked at it, I was like, oh no, the sleeping patterns, it's terrible. And it's like in and out. And it's like, no. And so I decided I'd rather just go and travel by myself and see the world, but I don't have to be an air hostess. So, you know, maybe you romanticized it in one sense, but now the reality of it is like different. You don't have to be stuck there.
But that's an important, what you just said about being an air hostess. I mean, that's some of the work that we do. Exactly what you said. Okay, what is it about that appeals to you? It's helping people, being with people, traveling, the freedom. Those things are great. What are the deal breakers?
Not sleeping. No, thank you. The long hours that you have to maybe do a flight, and then you have 4 days off in some other place. But it's like, no, thank you. I'd rather wait and go and see the places slower, but I don't have to. So I made a decision. It's like, and I'm glad that I did that, because the longer I looked at, the more I realized it's something that I wouldn't like to do, but other people might, you know.
And we were talking about seasons. Who knows? There may be a point in your life when it makes sense to go and do that.
Oh, she made me laugh so hard. But I'll keep an open mind.
My point is, at some point it's not the right decision for you. It doesn't mean that.
I love it. Oh my God. All the airlines will be coming to me saying, Deb, come work for us.
One of the airline, I thought about doing that as well. I think many people think about that.
For the traveling.
You have to speak fluent French. And I realized, that's never going to happen. So find something else. So
excellent. Yeah. Well, Jil, I want to thank you. I think we've covered most of the points. I think mostly we just wanted to make people aware that you have a relationship with your job, and that if you didn't know it, that you could explore it a little bit. And if you don't like it, you can talk to somebody about it. If you want to change it, talk to somebody about it. If you're romanticizing some other career in your mind, make sure you do your homework. So hopefully people will take our pointers today and apply it, and hopefully it can help them. And if you ever feel like you have to reach out, I'm going to put all Jil's information down here. in the podcast. So you can reach out to her at any time. I personally think it's to me, it's such a wonderful opportunity when you can go and talk to somebody about something that you don't have much idea about, right? And so it's good to know that that's available. So reach out to her. And I just want to say thank you, Jil. It was so lovely to make a conversation with you. That's how I run my podcast. We have a conversation. We talk about real life. We talk about real things. We talk about day-to-day things that people go through. And the intention is always to find that kind of thread, that your day-to-day life, spirituality is in your day-to-day life. Spirituality is in your job. Spirituality is in you raising your family. Spirituality is present in everything that we do. And so I just like to have conversations with different people, trying to help our audience to hear some information that they might not have heard before and share that in a very conversational way. So I just wanted to thank you for having a conversation with me today. And we will see you soon. I haven't seen you here in so many years. I think you're still on the island there, right? In Victoria?
Vancouver. Actually.
Yeah. Oh, Vancouver. So whenever you come to the Okanagan, come and say hello to us. Absolutely. And we look forward to that.
We will go to yoga together.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. Let's go die in the hot room.
Absolutely. I can't wait.
Thank you, Jil. Have a wonderful day. Take care.